Hello and welcome to the Worst of All Possible Worlds, the podcast where we discuss the pop culture of a dying empire. I'm Josh, and I'll be your host. With me today is Brian, who will be providing us with facts about production and trivia, and AJ, who will be adding jokes and analysis of the narrative structure. Today, we'll be listening to an episode of Adventures in Odyssey where Wit invents a machine that can kill God. Ooh. As we listen to the episode, Brian, can you give us some background on Adventures in Odyssey and its creator? Focus on the family?
Sure, Josh. Adventures in Odyssey is a long-running radio drama created by the evangelical organization Focus on the Family. The show is aimed at children and follows the adventures of a group of friends in the fictional town of Odyssey. The show often incorporates moral lessons and Christian themes.
Thanks, Brian. And AJ, what can you tell us about the episode we're listening to?
Well, this episode is called Wit's Endowment, and it's from season 25. In it, the main character, Wit, invents a machine that can kill God. I'm not sure what Wit was thinking, but that's just ridiculous. I mean, come on. What kind of person would even consider inventing something like that? It's just absurd.
Let's go ahead and listen to the episode now.
In fact, I put it together because of our conversation the other day. Oh, the one about death. Because of Jesus. Well, I only wanted to help us understand that death of God.
Wow, that was quite the episode. What did you guys think?
I thought it was interesting how they tackled such a controversial topic, Josh. It's not often that you see a show like Adventures in Odyssey take on something like this.
I agree, AJ. I thought the episode did a good job of exploring the moral implications of Wit's invention, and it raised some thought-provoking questions.
Definitely, Brian. And I have to say, I'm still pretty angry about Wit inventing that machine. I mean, what was he thinking? It's just ridiculous.
Thanks for the analysis, AJ.
No problem, Josh. You know, speaking of ridiculous things, have you guys ever taken the B60 bus? It's like riding a roller coaster through the seventh circle of traffic hell.
Haha. That's a good one, AJ.
And what about horses, AJ?
Oh, horses are great. They're like giant, majestic cats with really long legs and a penchant for eating hay. But have you ever tried to get a horse to use a scratching post? It's like trying to teach a cow to moonwalk.
You know, speaking of absurd things, have you guys seen that new Dragon Ball Z movie? Goku eats so much food that he becomes so full that he has to be rolled out of the arena on a wheelbarrow. Talk about a stomach ache.
Thanks for the laughs, AJ and Brian. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on the Worst of All Possible Worlds. Until next time, keep enjoying the pop culture of a dying empire.
Yes.
So,
Jim,
in case you hadn't guessed yet, that was actually scripted. That wasn't off the cuff.
the main reason
really?
you know
Yeah, that was
I was off the cuff.
Oh,
the main reason you know that it's bullshit is that we're all very patiently waiting for each other to finish our thoughts.
That's a good point, AJ.
Yes, excellent. Although I will say that is about the extent of my analysis.
Yeah, no, I mean,
that joke.
If you've been, following what's been, well, first of all, I should say, hello, welcome. This is Ladscast.
Yeah,
Ladscast.
It's going pubic.
Brian, read that again. Take that one more time.
Ladscast. It's going pubic.
Okay, so it's the public episode.
Yeah, I wrote it out pubic, though. I did this on purpose.
Okay, great.
And usually, well,
I'm the worst of all possible,
yes,
Brians.
I'm the worst of all possible Joshes.
I'm just AJ. This is Ladscast.
That's a good
We don't
point.
have to
you're
be the worst.
normal of
Yeah, we
all.
don't have to be the worst version of ourselves for
Well,
this.
cool. You're fired.
No!
Wow. So
I have nothing else.
really what the point is of this, what the point of this is.
Yeah. We're reading more GPT prompts. Okay. Yeah. This is our monthly show that
Yes.
we have for our $10 listeners, and this is our opportunity to both entice you into thinking, ooh, maybe I should subscribe and see what these guys, maybe they'll have takes, and we'll give you our monthly
In
takes.
case that script up top wasn't compelling enough for you.
And the
you
other-
also have to hear about our opinions.
The other
Yeah,
point of it
baby.
is so that I don't have to work as much because it's December and I have bad mental health.
That's what
So I don't edit these.
look.
Yeah. Look. It is Taylor Swift's birthday, so we have to go back to December all the time.
I don't care about Taylor Swift.
Yeah, but I do.
But what-
so that means now you have to talk about it.
But ChatGPT obviously
Yeah.
is a thing that exists now.
Yeah.
In case you
Chat Golf Pro Tourney.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
And part of why I wanted to do that was that I just thought it would be fun to generate some text and have us read it.
It doesn't seem to know who we are.
No.
I'm just going to say that.
No,
it
it doesn't.
feels like an NPR script.
It does. And this is something I've been seeing a lot of different people play around with all this shit, like all of these AI assisted fucking creative algorithms of various types.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the future of podcasting, though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
No.
it's all going to be
The way of the future. The
No.
way of the
Yeah.
future.
The
It's
way of
not.
the future. this is the way it's all going to be done from now on. Is it's going to be
Yeah.
generally
We're all going to say, ha ha.
Right.
hee hee, ho ho, and honestly, the horse corner bit was a little bit too on point for
Well,
me.
so this is the thing. The way that I wrote it was I put in first like a really long paragraph where I was like, the worst of all possible worlds is a podcast that talks about the pop culture of a dying empire.
Okay.
Josh organized the conversation, keeps on track.
Yeah.
Brian adds facts and trivia. Like whatever the weird, awkward stuff was that I said or that you said about like.
You were guiding this pretty far because I saw some of
Yeah.
the process of
Yeah.
you making that was like, make Brian meaner.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There was also a point where I said, add a joke from AJ about horses, add a joke from Brian about Goku eating so much that he becomes so full.
Josh is wearing a mask, play Salieri.
And, we could do a whole fucking episode about this shit.
We
And
won't.
if you want to
Yeah.
listen to something that's actually interesting, go check out Trash Future. They did a
Yeah,
really,
that's their thing.
That's their bag more than ours.
I don't know anything about AIs. Haley Joel Osment is, of course, a very talented actor. Still is, honestly.
Yes, yeah.
But like,
It just suffered because it wasn't Kubrick's fully.
well, yeah. Well, it was Spielberg trying to do it. Anyway, that bit's done.
We like talking about media here. We are a pop culture podcast first and foremost. So I guess
yeah.
as far as AI goes, there's probably going to be more of that shit.
Yeah, so one thing that we
but-
do on every Ladscast is that we open with our denouncements,
Yes.
except when we don't. When we don't do it, we denounce that. And when we
That's
do, we denounce that as well.
That's right.
And I have an actual denouncement that I need to make of something I said in the Pearl Harbor episode where I said that September 11th is Patriots Day.
Yes.
Mhm.
Turns out I have been chastened. I am the husband of Pete Buttigieg, and I'm going to say his name that way. I don't fucking care what you tell me.
You can say it any way you want to say,
Yeah,
Brian.
exactly.
You can dance if you want to.
And so I said, except in this case, because I said Patriots Day, which it turns out is a different holiday that massholes celebrate. It's when they do the marathon, which is why that Mark Wahlberg movie about the marathon is called Patriots Day.
Oh, okay.
I also did not know this
Oh.
movie existed. No, September 11th. Do you know what they actually call it officially?
I don't.
I do, but I want to let you say it.
Yeah. For the sake of the bit. Patriot Day.
Just one?
No. It's not possessive anymore.
Oh, I see. So
Well,
it's
actually,
not the
no,
day
I think
of
it's
the Patriots.
plural and possessive.
It would
It's
be a single
multiple
patriot.
patriots, but belonging to them. It's the day of theirs, but this is just the day of patriot. Yeah.
So Patriots Day. So
no,
Patriots
Patriot Day.
So Patriots Day
Yes.
would be.
It's a Revolutionary War thing.
So that's belonging to one Patriot.
It is actually belonging to multiple. It's S
Okay.
apostrophe. Yeah.
I don't understand the difference between the two at
Well,
this point.
This is the day of Patriot.
S apostrophe is also my favorite Disney Imagineer.
Is it?
That's
Is,
to our fans of the Imagineers who know that there is
fuck?
an Imagineer named X Atencio.
is it the day where America just all
What?
just all sit down and watch Mel Gibson's The Patriot on loop all day?
They
Is that
probably
Patriots
do.
Day?
Or they also watch the Mark Wahlberg movie Patriots Day. But
Just back and forth,
Patriot
back and
Day is when we celebrate 9/11.
So we don't celebrate. 9/11.
Instead of it being a holiday, it's a day
Speak
of
for
service.
yourself, motherfucker.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
Oh,
I denounce that. I denounce everything we said in the last
denounced,
Ladscast.
fully denounced.
Fully denounced. We got so many letters about Patriots Day
Yeah.
from just a bunch of people from Massachusetts.
98% of our audience actually lives in Massachusetts.
Yes.
And we denounce them as well.
Unequivocally.
Yes.
And, speaking of places that are known for having fan bases that are uniquely neurotic when it comes to sports.
Wow. You brought it home. You did it.
Wow.
Thanks. I
Yeah.
do my best. Just wanted to take a moment here to mourn the almost perfect, well, not almost perfect, but almost excellent season that the Mets.
Almost perfect to the Mets fans.
You know, this was a year that. Why are we doing? Are we really doing this?
Fly away from here, from this dark, cold hotel room. Come on, Josh, testify. At the endlessness.
No, I'm just going to let you sing for a little bit here.
You are pulled from the wreckage of baseball, of your silent reverie,
of baseball thoughts.
You're in the arms of the angels. May you find some comfort here.
Your baseball comfort.
So next season, the Mets are going to be really good. You know, they made some good moves.
In the arms of the angel, may you
during
find some cope here.
the winter meetings. It's not cope.
It's funny. Josh is wearing a Mets hat and it just burst into flames.
I am wearing a Mets hat, actually. No, I'm excited about, you know,
I would never lie to
the
you, listener.
acquisitions that the Mets made during the winter meetings from free agency. I'm particularly excited to see Kodai Senga, who is a Japanese pitcher.
Oh, amazing.
He got signed for, I want to say, 5 years.
Okay.
He has this ball that he throws. It's like he's got like this.
Is it a baseball?
It is.
Whoa.
And
He's perfect for this.
Yeah.
he's got a pitch specifically
I'm
that
so
he
glad they
throws.
hired him.
And apparently, they say that it just disappears. The ball just like seems to disappear. It's as if you never saw it to begin with.
He's a magician?
He's a
Is
magician.
it because it's
of
really
sorts.
fast, or is it a trick? Is he doing
It's
a
like,
trick?
well, it's fast, but it also like doesn't go where you think it will. And so you're
Yeah.
watching it and then all of a sudden it's just gone.
Do you know what kind
Apparently.
of a ball that is? Is it a curveball, a slider?
I think it's a cutter.
a knuckle. A cutter.
I think it's a cutter, but
Okay, what's a cutter? I actually don't know a cutter.
They're currently hosting the World Cup.
Oh, yeah,
there's
yeah.
a lot of controversy.
no, that's Qatar. How do you?
Qatar.
Qatar.
Yeah.
It's like Qatar.
Well, yeah. But like we're English speakers. We don't have those
This is
phonemes.
Josh's Arabic pronunciation corner, I guess.
No, it's not really a corner. It's very round.
Not good.
You're banging on the walls to get out.
Trying my
You're
best.
trapped.
My friend who is a journalist has just been assassinated by the state.
Boy,
Oh, boy.
yeah, we don't need to talk about that yet. It's inconclusive.
True.
At this point.
Yeah.
Because there is also a disease that is going around the whole world that makes people
That's
feel
true.
cold and flu symptoms
actually-
and then also have heart attacks.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And it is definitely like conspiratorial thinking that, you know, obviously there's a lot to genuinely there's a lot to criticize obviously about this World Cup, about the state.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's also a lot of very thinly veiled anti-Islamist
There's a lot of
rhetoric,
stuff.
you
There's
know.
just a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
You know, this is why we don't do a weekly discourse
Exactly.
podcast, because we don't feel like we need to express our opinions on every goddamn thing going on. But it is just like the World Cup FIFA is a very corrupt thing. We knew this when the arrangement to get this tournament into this country a decade ago now, more than that.
Yeah.
We knew that there was the high cost of slave labor and everything else. We knew about the human rights abuses. We know about, of course, our own human rights abuses.
Well, and that's the thing, right?
Yeah,
it's like with the thing of what? If you're pointing at someone else, there are 3 fingers pointed back at you.
That's a Spider-Man
Oh.
meme, I believe. That's where I first learned about that.
Except with Spider-Man, all the fingers are pointing at him because they're both him.
Well, with Spider-Man, actually, there are 2 fingers
I know.
pointing.
I think it's cute because when he puts out his webs, he's saying, "I love you."
That's true.
Aww,
And also
that
with
is very
Spider-Man,
sweet.
there are only
Yeah.
2 fingers pointing back at him on each hand, the middle finger and the ring finger, because he has to make that sign in order to activate the little thing that's in his palms that
flip.
makes the fucking...
Well, it depends on which Spider-Man you're talking about. Like, you're talking about the machine Spider-Man, or you're talking
that's
just
the
about
thing,
like
is
its
like,
normal produces.
Raimi made sense. Raimi made it make sense. He's like, he's got spider powers. That includes webs.
No, but that's not canon.
It became canon.
Yeah,
he made
In
it
that
canon.
universe.
No, they put it in the comics too.
They also did put it in the
Yeah, because
comics.
he got fucked
Yeah.
by the Spider Queen.
Oh,
Okay,
And
that was in the
then-
musical.
No, because there's a giant Spider Queen that fucked him or something.
Right.
And then gave him the web wrists.
Huh.
It's his cum.
It is. It's just his cum. It is just
Wasn't
a
there a
sweet, sweet
Spider-Man
scream.
comic where his cum actually killed Mary Jane? Like he was like
Surely
letting me
not.
raw you.
Surely not.
Imagine
Because his
it.
sperm was irradiated because of the irradiated spider, and it gave her cancer.
Oh, whoa,
from
maybe.
from his spooge. No,
That sounds-
I don't read comics, but I read about them sometimes.
That sounds familiar enough
Yeah.
for me to actually maybe believe this
I got
is
the
true.
spooge cancer.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, God, vile. I also watched the Spider-Man Across the Universe, a Spider-Verse Across the Universe trailer today, and I cried like a baby.
Wait, so they got
What?
Julie Taymor back?
No.
None of us care about the Marvel movies, AJ.
It's not a Marvel movie. It's the Sony one. It's a
They're
sequel to
doing
Into
a
the
new
Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse movie?
Yeah, it's called Across the Spider-Verse.
That's the animated one.
It's the really, really good one, Brian. If you haven't seen it, it's actually like,
I did see
really
the
good.
animated one.
Yeah,
I
with
probably
Miles
don't need to
Morales.
see another one.
Yeah, it's very good.
They'll ruin it.
No,
They ruin everything.
not always.
They even ruined the Raimi ones. Raimi ruined his own.
Right,
And they're
but
the good ones.
Right, but I mean, I still hold out hope for this one because Across the Spider-Verse.
You're holding out
because
hope for a hero.
Well, Into the
Until the end of
Spider-Verse
the night.
was so
Yeah.
good that like, and the trailer for Across the Spider-Verse seems to actually be focusing it in a way that I didn't. Usually, when you do multiverse stories, it gets like really like convoluted,
but like
really,
the
really quickly.
Beatles jukebox musical thing has been done.
The what? Lennon? Are we talking? Is this Lennon cast
Brian,
now?
I'm
Brian's
talking about
making an
Across the
Across the Universe
Universe.
joke.
Oh, I see.
That was the whole Julie Taymor thing.
Oh, I thought you were just doing.
You
back
got to
to
get on
Sp-
board with me. This is what the AI can't do.
That's
This is
right.
what the AI can't do.
The AI definitely can't do this, nor should it.
No,
Nor should it.
Okay, hold on.
Okay, well that just feels
That hit
hurtful.
me a little close.
That's a little close to the vest.
It stings.
But speaking of Broadway,
yes.
it's back. I don't know
Broadway is
if you've
back!
heard. Broadway is in fact back.
Oh, it wasn't. Now it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Despite the dismal numbers from the American Theater Magazine's recent report.
So a big thing is happening on Broadway right now, folks.
It's back.
There is a musical. Was a musical called K-pop as of last Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 days ago.
K-pop is a really interesting case study in bad decision making.
Right.
It was a hit off-Broadway immersive show.
Yes.
So it was the kind of show where you would get into a group, they'd split the groups into smaller subgroups,
Right.
and then you'd walk through multiple stories, multiple rooms. I mean stories as in up and down. You go up and down lots and lots of stairs, just like Sleep No More, except it's more guided.
Yeah.
And you are taken backstage in this like sort of American leg of a tour for some K-pop groups, right? So the idea is like they're bringing them to the United States. This was 2017. This was like SNSD, Girls' Generation had some crossover. I knew a guy who was like really into Girls' Generation.
Who was that?
His name escapes me. I went to college with him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He was an assistant director on something I worked on.
Was he nice?
He was a little weird. There was one time he was in rehearsal for this Hungarian play, and he was on his Game Boy the whole time. Yeah. It's Josh, guys. It was Josh who
What were you
who
playing?
was really into Advance Wars.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't even at this rehearsal. I know
It would
this.
either be Advance Wars or Phoenix Wright. That's all I was ever fucking playing at that point.
They should make a crossover.
Phoenix Wright Wars?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Why not?
Gumshoe just walking in front of a tank being, what's all this? Then he explodes.
Yeah.
It's
So
actually more like a
yeah.
Fire Emblem crossover with Phoenix Wright.
Same thing.
That would fucking rule.
Yeah, but you couldn't have anyone in Phoenix Wright like fuck each other like that. They're
could.
all pretty much.
I could.
You couldn't. So K-pop is
Guess
really
the musical
interesting
did it.
because it sold out the whole run. And then it extended the run and sold out completely again. It was a very expensive ticket and it wowed the critics. They loved it. Not the people who were like into immersive theater. They
Sure,
were like
okay.
it's a little flat sometimes. But obviously like this thing had legs.
Yeah.
And not just because it was going up and down all those stairs. So
Also worth noting, this was developed at Ars Nova, which
Yes.
is the same theater that Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812
Right.
started at.
which was
Real banger
also an
theater.
immersive show.
Yep.
To a slightly different degree. You sat down the whole time. That made it to Broadway and didn't do very well.
but not as
overall.
poorly as K-pop did.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the big keys to Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812, and I love that you brought this up because I was going to do that anyway, is that they put in a huge star, right? They put in Josh Groban
Right.
Yes.
to play a relative. He's on stage the whole time for what that's worth, but he's a relatively small role. He's in the
Yes.
title, but like,
Yeah.
not doing a whole lot.
And then
He
later,
sings a lot of the bangers in the show.
He does. Well, and they gave him a new song to close Act 1 because they're like, oh, we have Josh Groban here. We have to do something.
and then later
Yeah.
on, they got fucking Mandy Patinkin, didn't they?
Well, that's where it all went south.
Sure.
So they realized like they needed a gimmick at all times to keep this show running. It's a weird show. The story kind of stops halfway through Act 2 and we just hear Balaga. That's the cue that I use.
Balaga.
And
Just
that goes on for
pretend
like
that it
20
played.
minutes. Think when we talk of Balaga that you see him crunching his proud hooves in the earth.
Think of Malanga at
Yeah.
the same time,
And
please.
so what happened was,
Rip
of course,
to a
like
real one.
Dave Malloy, the author of the musical, he came back to play Pierre. That wasn't enough because he's not a big name. They got Sarah Bareilles to come in.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they did.
And then they thought, oh, okay, now we've got another
AJ's favorite, Sarah
another
Bareilles.
name that we could do. We're going to get someone from the original cast of Hamilton. And
Yeah.
it was Oak,
Right.
Yeah.
who is sort of known among people who are into musicals, but he's not. It's not like getting Leslie Odom Jr. or Lin-Manuel
Right.
Miranda.
Right.
And he wasn't selling tickets.
Or even Daveed Diggs for that matter.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he's nothing against him. It's just
Right.
that's the way that the roles are written. Those are the people who had the biggest stardom, the biggest TV presence, everything like that.
Right. So the producers bungled this transition.
They-
I don't think they bungled
they
it. I think
bungled it.
I think
They
I think
Barack
there were
bungled it.
I think there were some bad actors involved. But they tried to get Mandy Patinkin in for a very brief point, and they were going to have some other star that was going to come in after Mandy Patinkin. Then it all blew up.
Right.
But like the thing was, they needed the star. When they didn't have the star, they didn't have the business.
Yeah.
K-pop is an even more immersive show, right? It's not just a musical that you sit through that you're just embedded in. It's a thing you walk through, and the scenery is built. You know, you're looking at posters, and you're living through
You're like
this
in
soap opera.
one of the dressing rooms
Yeah,
of one of the
there's-
people warming up for the show
You're
or some
seeing
shit.
all the shit, people getting into arguments, the on-site plastic surgeon coming through, things like that. And so they thought, well, of course, like it's a big hit. Let's bring it to Broadway. But like
Yeah.
Sleep No More is a big hit. You don't bring that to Broadway because you can't.
Well, they need
Because-
non-union actors.
Well, that too. But it's also it's a different thing, right? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
making
yeah.
something into a movie. You are fundamentally changing the thing. And then they got hit because they were going to try to do this in 2020. COVID happened.
Right.
They didn't have an out of town run.
Yeah, they lost the momentum.
They lost just a lot of time, and they were spending and spending and spending. It's a very expensive show,
Right.
a very expensive lighting setup.
Yeah.
And this, by the way, I should say, is not the only show that this happened to.
No.
There are a lot of
Nope.
other shows that sort of ended up in this state. However,
Mm-hmm.
those shows were more, the shows that were able to sort of open up on Broadway after the pandemic break were ones that were more stable for one reason or
Yeah.
another.
Yeah.
So one great example being the revival of The Music Man
Right.
with Sutton Foster and Hugh
Which-
Jackman.
yeah.
That is a known property, known actors,
Yeah.
a known producer until he disappeared off
Yeah.
the face of the earth named Scott Rudin.
And didn't need to be workshopped because
Exactly.
it was written 70 years ago.
Right.
Even though they did make some rewrites.
They did make some rewrites, and they made the songs a lot slower.
Like a lot slower.
And The Music
Yeah.
Man is closing. Right? It's not sticking around
once
for very
Hugh Jackman
long.
leaves the show,
It's gone.
It
Yeah.
seems that they weren't able to find a way to give the juice. People weren't going for the
Yeah.
show; they were going for Hugh Jackman.
In a show, and The Music Man is an old Broadway hit. They've got the big director who does all the revivals. It in a normal environment.
That was Jerry Zaks, right? The same guy who directed Hello Dolly.
Yes.
The one with Bette Midler?
And
Yes, indeed.
it's just the business has changed, right? The business has changed fundamentally. And so when you have a risk of a brand new show, one with a not very good title,
Right.
it's like doing a rap musical and just calling it rap.
Right.
And this is not.
There
you
is
know,
Motown, the
and
musical.
people think, yeah, but that's a jukebox musical with Motown songs.
Right.
The show
These
sells
are-
itself, yeah, because
these
Motown is
are
a brand,
all-
right?
yeah.
Yeah, that is a brand.
These are all original songs. It's and they got some stars. They got Luna from FX.
Mm-hmm.
That was big. She is a musical theater star in Korea. She was in Legally Blonde,
Oh, amazing.
as well as like a number of other shows. But all of this money, all of this press too, and they were doing lots and lots of publicity. They never thought, or I shouldn't say they never thought to, but they didn't say record an album in the intervening years, which
Right.
maybe they should have, but I still think that we'd be seeing the same thing because the main thing to note from all of this, there are problems with marketing. It got bad reviews. One of those reviews was racist from a New York Times critic that's himself racist.
Yes.
Who has a record of saying very weird things whenever he's not writing about a show about white people.
And for some reason, they don't edit him. I don't know
well, they
why.
don't edit anyone anymore, right? Like, that's just their thing. They just don't edit. No. So,
whose critics are they?
so like, we have all of these
they?
problems, but like the fundamental problem here is that COVID has destroyed so much of Broadway's business. We're looking at 2018, 2019 was a record-setting year, right?
Yeah.
Broadway was just going up and up and up and up. The costs were getting higher. The number of shows was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That was a revenue generator of about $1.8 billion.
Yeah.
Now, this previous season, this stuff starts in the middle of the year, right? So it's like summer to summer.
Yeah.
From 2021 to 2022, this is down 54%. It is $800 million.
When you see those numbers side by side, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's a majority of the revenue has not come back in that season.
But it's also not really surprising. Like, because I saw a few shows, just during the weird
the Broadway is back phase.
Yeah, weird Broadway.
Where they kept insisting Broadway was back.
Yeah.
And with all evidence to the contrary.
Here's 17 understudies on tonight.
Yeah. There was something weird too about the way that they booked,
Mayor Whittingham's husband, they flew him in from Chicago. He will be on tonight.
Right.
On book.
They booked into the actual venues. They booked in all of these plays that otherwise wouldn't have had a shot to make it to Broadway because they would have been crowded out by more surefire commercial hits.
Sure.
Such as, for instance, there was the play Thoughts of a Colored Man, which I saw that season.
Right.
And it was one of those things, too, where they were trying to frame it as, wow, Broadway is finally being an inclusive place.
Right.
Finally,
they're pushing the diversity thing.
Finally, we are improving the diversity on our stages. But the reason they were doing that was they wanted to keep all of what they considered to be the surefire hits, which is to say the ones that were written by people who are already well established in the industry, who of course are disproportionately white.
Yep.
They wanted to save those.
Yeah, they wanted to keep them safe. These were sacrifices.
And they dropped like flies.
Yeah. They're like, oh yeah, look at this is like the blackest season that Broadway has ever had, right? We have shows that really weren't like right for Broadway as an audience, like Chicken and Biscuits, which is going to have a decent life as like a show that community theaters and regional theaters do,
there's auditions for that all the time.
But it's like not a Broadway show. Thoughts of a Colored Man. They brought the Waiting for Godot one, the one that played in Chicago, Danya Taymor directed.
Passover?
Passover.
Yeah.
They brought Passover over to New York. They gave it a new ending.
Yeah, they gave it
for some reason.
They gave it a positive ending.
And so like
ending.
And when you'd see like people write about it, and then the criticism that would be levied will like, oh yeah, now that we have like this diverse season, now you're gonna shit all over us, huh? Like we're coming back from, and it's like, come on, like this is, and it's just Broadway producers being Broadway producers.
Yeah.
And it's actually the strong stance that the K-pop producers should have done when they were talking about Jesse Green, the New York Times reviewer, being racist, rather than trying to like diagram it, rather than kind of walking through each paragraph and saying what the problem is. Just lean on the fact that he made this weird reference to quote squint-inducing lights.
Yes,
and just be like, are you fucking kidding me, man?
Yeah.
What is wrong? Because he has a history, especially with plays by like Asian writers.
Yes.
It's just he's a weird dude, and he's also just a terrible critic.
Yeah, he's very. I think yes, he is incredibly racist and just very bad at his job.
But the weird thing too about Jesse Green for me is like he went from being, because he was at what, New York Magazine before, right? Vulture, I want to say.
Vulture. Yeah.
And he went from being, I don't know, I never really, and maybe I just wasn't like looking close enough.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I didn't see the same sort of odiousness in his reviews until he moved to the Times, and maybe that's because the Times edits differently. I don't know.
Although it doesn't seem like they edit. Maybe Vulture does edit.
Yeah, maybe Vulture does.
That's what I'm saying.
That seems the thing.
No, I'm saying maybe Vulture edits better, because like I just remember seeing, it's like there's something about the Times, and we are not a podcast that tries to understand the New York Times effect on man. We will leave that to the Bee Gees.
Yeah.
We
are staying alive, we have to say.
We are doing that.
We are at the very least staying alive.
The effect of the New York Times on Man in the Moon marigolds.
But holy shit.
Jesus.
The fucking brain worms that otherwise reasonably, and I'm not saying, by the way, that Jesse Green is reasonably intelligent, but I'm saying that there are reasonably intelligent people who will get a long-standing gig at the Times and just will grow brain worms overnight.
They just become disgusting, grotesque monsters of human beings.
Or they just reveal their true selves.
That's what Chapo Trap House was able to build its entire empire off of, was just let's laugh at these fucking insane columnists for the New York Times.
But freaks and perverts, a lot of them.
Like bovine Barry Weiss,
But I'd like to talk about briefly, just for the people who don't know who Jesse Green is, or even the effect of the New York Times on theater. As we're sitting here talking about this right now, I am fucking terrified for my future in the theater of New York, because literally they're the arbiters of taste, and they're more importantly,
they know the score,
the arbiters of ticket sales. Like they, at least to their knowledge, like if you get a New York Times review, you can transfer, I think, effectively to Broadway. Like it makes it easier to sell to investors. Well, it got a critics pick downtown. We can take this thing to Broadway. And it's terrifying the amount of power that he has in this position and what he can do to a show by panning it.
I mean, it's weird to say, because critics don't matter so much anymore. Like it used to be that was the make or break for everything in theater, in Broadway.
Right.
It was like the critics have to get out.
It's the Frank Rich giving you the seal.
only one that matters is the New York Times. But to what degree does it matter? It's really hard to say. Sure. And it's certainly not that he sunk K-pop specifically, right? No. K-pop
there were a lot
closed
of
very suddenly, and when that happens, it means they don't have an advance, what that means is people buying tickets in advance.
Right.
That's bad, right? Christmas is a very good time, typically, for New York City.
If you can't make it through Christmas, that raises some serious questions about the way you're promoting and marketing your show.
Right. And K-pop specifically needed to rely on an international audience, not necessarily a Korean audience, because I don't think they would be able to sell to that. But if you get Europeans coming in, right, you're trying to aim for the kind of audience that made Cats successful, which is people who don't necessarily speak any of the languages on that stage, who can just chill out and have fun. That's the appeal of K-pop. You don't have to speak Korean or English, which are both being used pretty prolifically.
Although, according to Jesse Green, there was too much Korean. That was another
thing to point out. Review. This guy was there's basically no Korean dialogue in this show. There's Korean in the songs. They're pop songs. You're seeing people perform on a stage. Yeah. That was the concept of the show, is you're watching a concert getting done, which also not the best concept for a show.
Right.
But again, it's all marketing, and it's all about whether the business is there or not. And the business just isn't there, especially for a show that is a big risk and for a show that has changed its thing. K-pop should have gone to Las Vegas. It should have been an immersive show. It should have been in some place where it could thrive as an immersive show. Immersive theater is also in limbo, and no one's saying immersive is back. Sleep No More is back.
Yeah.
Some immersive shows are doing well. Bottom of the Ocean, which is closing at the end of the month, was doing great business all the way to the end. They're closing because they're closing on their own terms. The show I'm in, which, hey guys, I'm in a show.
Hey, plug time.
Doors of Divergence. We're doing just fine. We're doing all right.
Amazing.
We've got the business, we've got the backing, we've got cool people behind it. If you want to see me as an evil psychiatrist, come check out
Constantly
Madness 1917. It's a fun, if you like escape rooms, it's an escape room thing.
Lovely.
But theater, live theater, immersive theater, I mean, you can tell, AJ, you auditioned for stuff. There's just not as much there.
No, I mean, there isn't really much happening at all right now. I mean, the audience it didn't come back to Broadway.
No.
Well, and that's the other thing that I wanted to point out about the demographic of the Broadway audience. Part of the reason that, we obviously joke all the time, Broadway's back, Broadway's back, Broadway's back. A big part of the reason that Broadway is not, in fact, back, other than for a few high-performing shows that are very hot tickets, is that in order to appeal to a Broadway audience, you have to appeal to a very specific type of person.
Yeah.
The Broadway League, which is the trade organization of Broadway theaters, owner-operators.
Every Broadway house, and that's defined by size, number of seats and whether it's in Manhattan.
It's got to be 500 or more. and it has to be not just in Manhattan, but in the box, in the Broadway box, which is 40th up to, I want to say 59th,
And so
between 9th and 6th.
all of those theaters are part of an organization, the Broadway League.
Right. And the league issues every so often reports on what the state of Broadway is.
Mm-hmm.
And for the 2018-19 season, they released a report, the demographics of the Broadway audience, and just a couple highlights about like what that audience looks like.
Yeah.
So only approximately 35% of Broadway attendances were by people from the New York City metropolitan area. So 2/3 of them are tourists.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And among those tourists, 46% are from the United States, 19% are from other countries, 68% female. The average age, 42.3 years old. And here's the real kicker.
Yeah.
The average annual household income of the Broadway theater goer was $261,000.
Fucking hell.
So it's not as old as you might think. It's certainly not as old as broadcast television. But
Yeah.
K-pop has to appeal to a younger crowd because K-pop, the thing, the actual thing, the fans of it are young.
Right.
They're
Yes.
younger than us.
Right.
Yes.
And I will point out as well that if you are a young fan of K-pop and, you know, you have to spend your parents' money to go to a show, you're probably not going to go to a staged recreation of what a K-pop concert looks like.
Yeah,
You are
right.
going to go to the real fucking thing.
They got a couple of names. They got Luna. So they got, like, if you are into K-pop and musical theater, and I'm sure there's some crossover, from what I see in YouTube comments of their promo videos, there definitely is crossover. You kind of have this even split between people like, I love seeing that this is happening as a stage show, and people being like, this isn't as good as the real thing.
Well, and if you can,
You know?
again, if it's like your parents are like, okay, I'll take you to a show, but you can,
You're gonna go to
you can
Frozen.
either go to K-pop. No, but
Like,
sorry, did I
yeah.
say Broadway show? What I meant to say was, say you can either go to K-pop on Broadway, or you can go see, I don't know, fucking Stray Kids at the Prudential Center in Newark.
Yeah.
You're going to go see the
Yeah.
actual K-pop band.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me that this isn't a jukebox musical. Of
Yeah, I mean,
K-pop
again,
hits.
it makes sense when you see where it's coming from.
Right. In the immersive
Which is an
space.
immersive show that's like this kaleidoscopic like descent into kind of hell
Wow.
with like K-pop music that's not really emphasizing the concert. It's just the concert is part of it.
Right.
Sure.
To something that is built entirely around the concert because now it's an immersive show set in a theater where you're sitting the whole time.
Right. Which is incredibly difficult to pull off even for people, you know, who had like out of town tryouts. But it seems like they had to build this thing up basically back up from the ground. And then just didn't take the time to do it.
It's a totally new show. I mean, most of the songs are brand new, right? They didn't exist in the 2017 version of this.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I also, just personally,
So
I
that's
want
where they were
to,
focusing. Yeah.
I want to make something very clear too, which is that I have not seen the show. I missed my chance because, again, it was open for, I think, 2 weeks.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It had 17 performances.
I would, you know, if
One more than Merrily.
and like this is none of this is to be a condemnation of the show itself.
Certainly not
Right,
of the
right,
show, and certainly not of all of
Not
the
of the
talent
creative,
that
the
is on
incredible
that
people who
stage.
worked
I
on
mean,
it.
holy
Absolutely.
shit, guys!
Yeah.
I mean, this fucking drought of any and all jobs.
Right.
Multiply that by 1,000, and then you get the experience of being Asian, right?
Yes.
And trying to work in this industry. Every once in a while, you get to do a show that's all Asian, and like most of the time, it's a racist show.
Well, yeah, usually
Yes.
it's The King and I, like literally.
It's The King and I, or it's fucking Miss Saigon or
Right.
some goddamn shit.
Right.
Right. Here's a show that's actually by mostly Asian artists
Yes.
about like real things. And I think they really leaned into in this version, like leaning into ideas of identity and things like that. And it, you know, people doing their absolute best.
Yeah.
But-
And you have Jesse Green come in and he's like, I really liked it better when it was about the white people.
Yeah.
That was actually
they
better.
knew what they were going to get when they, hopefully they prepared their
But I
cast for
think
like,
it's-
this guy's going to say the worst shit
But again,
imaginable.
I think it's one of those things too where it's like if you want to target your show toward the demo of people who are actually seeing a Broadway show, then, you know,
then Jesse Green is not going to fucking matter, first of all.
Yeah.
Like, you have to, like, hit them on TikTok. And, like,
Right.
they streamed for their last performance. They managed to get a deal where they streamed just the concert that happens at the end of the production. So it's about 20 minutes of material. Didn't get a lot of hits. About 3,000 people watched it across Instagram and TikTok.
That was it?
That was it.
Oh my.
And I think that was not people who stuck around for the whole thing.
That's views or likes?
I think that was full view count.
No,
when I was looking at it on
Oof.
Instagram, it was like 1,800 at that time.
Oh my.
That were watching. Yeah.
Wow. That's small. I mean, that's
And
huge for me. I want to be very honest. If
that's big for us. We're not a Broadway show with
Right.
$1 million lighting rig.
That's
Right.
true. That's very, very true.
So like when we say Broadway is back, we mean it's fucking not.
No.
And
Yeah.
it's not going to be anytime soon. And I mean, a little caveat, like the numbers that we have are from last season, which was hit by like the first Omicron wave
Right.
and things like that. But like
right, but it's also not. I mean, K-pop is just one of the many casualties right
Yeah,
now.
yes.
Ain't
I
No
mean,
Mo is closing.
we
I
had
think.
we had
Yep.
smaller
Next
shows.
week, I
We
think.
had
Next week.
Raisin in the Sun basically just had to stop because everyone got COVID.
At the
Because
public?
people are still getting COVID. Yeah, at the public theater.
Right. I saw that. Raisin in the Sun.
You managed to see it before.
I did. I managed to
yeah.
see it before everyone just got COVID and dropped out. And the performances are really, really great. But it's one of those things where they added on an epilogue that completely subverted like the play. And that was my
weird.
first time
I
seeing.
cannot fucking stand this shit.
That was the first time I'd ever seen the play or read it or had any experience with it. And so I could tell where the play stopped and then the director came in.
Yeah.
Mostly it was because the lead actor pulled a playbill out of his back pocket of the show we were seeing of Raisin in the Sun and showed it to everybody and then crumpled it up and threw it into the audience. And I'm like, I'm back at NYU. I'm a freshman at NYU again. Oh, man. Wow. Wild.
I mean, I'd kind of dig it if they just said "fuck you, Bruce Norris" specifically, but like,
No, actually, that's actually the big tragedy, I will say, not to get on too big a Raisin in the Sun tangent, but like just how in the audience, they said Clybourne Park on stage, right?
Yeah.
And the audience started like, whoa, like they did that.
Yeah.
And it will, like, at least within this generation, it will forever be associated with that play.
fucking
Right.
And how can you watch Clybourne Park and then leave the theater and be like, I wonder what the white people were up to.
Right.
Like, what kind of sick mind words?
How can you watch a Raisin in the Sun and come away with that? You mean?
But it's like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
Lorraine Hansberry, her life was cut way too short. One of the absolute best playwrights ever to live.
Yes,
Ever.
absolutely. That
The
play is
incredible,
unimpeachable.
Poetic facility that she had with language to write these realist plays that somehow exist in like a totally supernatural plane.
Yes.
And for just some hack NYU professor to be like, what if we made this racist? And who won the Pulitzer out of those two people?
Yeah,
Bruce Norris
It was Bruce
won.
Norris who won for Clybourne Park, which is a bad play. I don't care for Clybourne Park.
No,
as a play.
no one's gonna remember Bruce Norris.
Yeah,
No one's gonna remember Bruce Norris in 5 years ago.
I will remember Bruce Norris.
he wrote a play about pedophiles. How dare you?
Yeah.
I also just wanted to say that in terms of other Broadway things, I saw the revival of Death of a Salesman with Wendell Pierce.
Oh wow.
I thought he was really good. I actually liked all of the cast. I was bothered by the Britishness of the production itself. There were some really annoying directorial choices, but Wendell Pierce was really good. And also, it was his birthday. So at the end, they brought out a cake. We all sang happy birthday to
That's
him.
super
It was
nice.
very nice.
Oh, that's really nice. I love that.
Wow, Broadway is back.
Broadway is, I mean, that's the thing, is that the community is there, I think. It's just no one's coming
Yeah.
to see the shows
Our-
because,
our
and rightfully
friend-
so, they're terrified.
Our friend Matt Barbeau said, like, probably the only solution is doing smaller scale, cheap shows for local audiences.
Yeah.
And that,
It's not happening.
it's
can't
not
happen.
going to happen. But like, he's probably right. He's probably about, as far as any idea can go in terms of like bringing business back to Broadway. That's probably it.
But you're not going to make rent on that.
No,
and that's the problem.
No, yeah, and people do, and we've already built this disease system where, like, if we're gonna do a revival of a classic American play, it has to be the British who do it, and then we bring it over,
Right.
Right. Sickos.
or some horrible Dutchman doing it in a British setting, and
Which
then we
is
bring it
even
over.
worse, actually.
Somebody
It's-
call for me.
Even worse, yeah. That's Broadway
That's
moments.
Broadway. It's back.
Yeah.
But, you know,
we're going into a bad season, and January is going to be even worse, baby.
But that's not the only place where people who are counting the beans are making bad decisions with regard to art.
Fucking shit,
Yeah.
guys. This fucking HBO Max motherfucker,
Oh,
David Zaslav.
makes me so mad.
I mean, ooh.
we are in the age of vapors. Things can simply exist and then simply not.
Yeah. So this just dropped literally today. Westworld and the Nevers have been pulled from HBO Max. Yesterday, I think The Minx was canceled and it was on its last day of production for season 2.
Yeah, they had been renewed and they were in the process of filming.
Yep.
There doesn't seem to be any actual logic to doing that, to canceling something as it's in production.
Residuals. It's all about residuals. That's what all these moves are about right now.
Yeah, but it still doesn't make sense because you can just put it up for a month.
Yeah.
And then take it off, right? Instead of
It's-
just killing it.
The cruelty is the point, though, I think. It is to discourage these people from making more
No,
narrative content for
there's
HBO.
There's a scheme. There's some sort of financial scheme involved. I don't know what it is because this stuff is like too high for me. But no, it's not just that like they want to punish their writers.
I think
Yeah, they do.
David Zaslav
I think they do.
fucking does.
I think they
because
do.
they're about to strike. That's the big thing. It's about to come up for renegotiation, all the writers' stuff, and they want to be like, HBO Max is not friendly to writers anymore. It's not friendly to showrunners because it's not. Discovery now owns it, and this motherfucker is coming in and wants to do non-scripted shows.
Right, which is what Discovery has always been, is just
Yes.
very, very cheap reality programming.
But Brian, I think I really do fundamentally disagree with you that like this isn't coming from a place of personal animosity or to prove a point. It's always to prove a point. That's the thing about these fucking guys.
I didn't say
these
it's not to prove a
mergers.
point, but I don't think it's like there's no revenge because there's nothing to have revenge against yet. There is something because they were making bad deals, they're monopolizing, and now they're cutting because there are market fundamentals that are breaking down, right? We
Sure.
saw this with Netflix breaking down. And it's happening across the streaming everything because there's too many streaming services. It's like AMC Plus exists for some fucking reason,
You
right?
have to pay like $10 a month.
And AMC Plus owns other streaming services that are separate from AMC Plus.
Yeah, that you can't
So
get in a bundle.
those are also falling apart.
Yeah. But it's really brutal out there, I think, for writers in Hollywood in general right now. All the rooms that used to be like 10 to 12
it's
people
done. It is
in writer's
done.
room, it's gone. You have 4 or 5 maybe, and it's a showrunner, his 2 friends, and then either they can hire a mid-level writer or
They
they can hire...
probably all went to Wesleyan too.
Yeah, they probably should.
And yeah, just like Jeremy O'Harris just kind of floats in and floats back out.
I imagine he walks into a room and then it's just like, what if your characters were gay? And then he just knocks a vase off off a plinth and then walks back out. And it's like, Jeremy, are you going to write a script or are you just going to break our shit?
This is the episode that gets us permanently excommunicated from
From
the New York City theater
scene.
community.
Oh, what theater scene? We're
Lord.
talking about Jeremy
No, I
O'Harris.
know, right? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point.
I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, he is a decent producer. Like
Yes.
he got,
Yeah, no,
he
he's
got
really
Irma
good
Vep
at it.
on HBO
and
Max.
credit where
Yeah.
credit is due
Yeah.
when it comes to, unlike fucking HBO,
Yeah.
when it comes to putting his money where his mouth is in terms of supporting new talent, he does it. He does the damn thing.
He does it. He's producing really new and interesting things, and then also Euphoria.
Yeah.
But Euphoria is a hit, so.
It is.
Yeah, no, I mean, and he has a really good eye for talent too. Like when he throws his money at something, you can always trust that
Yeah.
like it's going to be really. It's
yeah,
going to
no,
be really good.
I would rather have a million Jeremy O'Harrises out there than fucking Zaslav and the Disney Bobs.
Well, I'd love to talk
All the
about that
Bobs.
actually, because
Yeah.
that's kind of interesting. To the point of like
that's-
media fucking maneuvers and shit like that. Obviously, Bob Chapek is out at Disney.
Yeah.
Bob Iger is back in. And there's questions about like what will happen next. There've been some wild ideas going around. Some people are like, will Apple buy Disney? Like M&A, this is the other thing, is like mergers and acquisitions and the
They're out of
impact
control.
that has had. It's insane.
Like we have entered we about 10 years ago entered the extreme deregulatory
Yeah.
environment where it's like we can just merge everything all the time.
right.
And they're doing it. They're just fucking going.
They're
for
going
it,
hog wild,
right?
dude.
Like I remember, I guess Trump was already president, but then of course like Disney acquired Fox, and that already
Right.
was that's too much.
Yes.
That is way too much
And
to be under a single umbrella.
And
then
there were a couple little things that
Ugh.
got spun off as part of that deal. So like there's a handful of Fox entities
Yeah.
that are still under the umbrella of the former
Fox-
News Corporation.
Fox News
Right.
is just Fox News.
Right.
It's not part of the rest of the Fox part. Is Fox Sports also there, or does
I
Disney?
think Fox Sports is also not owned by Disney because Disney
Right,
owns
'cause they own
ESPN.
ESPN. Yeah.
But
And so maybe that was their way of sort of going around maybe the few regulatory hurdles
But
they
yes.
might find. And Disney, of course, owns, if not a majority stake, then I think at least like 40% of Hulu as well.
Yes, correct.
So you're in this weird network where you're
It's like
just
50-50-ish between them and Comcast.
Yeah, you're like buying multiple streaming services from the exact same company.
Yeah.
Right. Which is, I
And
mean,
they don't even have the same software base.
yeah.
like-
and you can tell because the UIs vary very differently.
of course.
And like
across the
Disney
board.
has the thing where the sound just always pops. It's just always going to pop forever. Hulu
Yeah.
doesn't have that. Could they use the Hulu platform? Sure. Fuck you, though.
And if you want to rewind on an HBO Max platform, you have to pray to whatever god you have.
But this is also why they had to chop Bob Chapek, is that the streaming division of Disney was
it got
losing
fucked. Yeah.
like an unfathomable amount of money.
Right, but they're making so much other money from elsewhere. Like,
yeah.
was it actually like damaging
That's
their
the
bottom
thing is
line?
like
Yes.
they're
Yes.
one of
Really?
Yes.
It was that much?
Yes.
Well, because one of their really big crown jewels is, of course, the theme parks.
The parks.
The parks are also a hotbed of absolutely dubious accounting.
Yes.
A lot of things don't really hold up, and you'd think that 2 years of closure would have probably led to all of that coming to a head, right? Classic Bialystok and Bloom situation, and it didn't, because nothing fucking matters anymore.
Well, and it's so funny too. Like in succession, all of the references to the parks are pretty much a direct reference to the
Yes,
Disney parks.
yes.
And all of the like dubious things that go on the Disney cruises in the Disney parks. But you know what division Bob Chapek came up from?
What?
Parks.
The parks.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah, because he figured
and
out how
recreation?
how to make the parks
Yes.
look the way that they look.
and more
the books.
importantly, it looked the way they look on the books. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so much of that too was due to creating the fucking, Disney adults, the fans, the freaks, are really
I'm
upset.
kind of one of them, but I hate you all too.
Yeah, that's fair. It's fair. As
I don't buy the merch, but I do like the parks.
as somebody who
They're nice.
as somebody who also really enjoys amusement parks,
Yeah.
I've always been more of like a Cedar Fair guy. Like grew up going to Cedar Point, shit like that. I can appreciate the business that Disney does with the parks. It's
Yeah.
really something else.
Yeah.
But a big part of the vision of the Disney parks was always that it would be a somewhat populist thing. That,
Mhm.
You could always, regardless of what your class background was, you could go to the Disney parks
Yeah.
and you could have an experience.
Well, and it's interesting because of things like Disney adults, people who are really, really obsessed with the parks, demand for them has never been higher.
Right.
They have more parks than ever, right? They have 2 in China,
Yeah.
2 in Japan. If you combine everything together, it's like 5 in the US.
And they've
Yeah.
got these fucking, like in Disney World,
Yeah.
you've got the like luxury estates. Like you can
Uh-huh.
fucking live in Disney World.
And the
Sicko
thing is, like,
behavior.
these places are full and full and full, and they just get more full like Goku because
It is like that.
they change the regulatory environment of the localities that they're in.
Right.
So like City
Which-
of Anaheim, State of California, let's allow more people to fill up these parks, and they get insane, and the lines are ridiculous, and now they have a monetized system that doesn't actually help with throughput.
Right.
Right. Kevin Perjurer did that great video on
Yep.
Defunctland about like how that
Yeah.
all worked
How they fucked the fast pass.
Yeah.
because they tried to monetize it, and it actually inherently destroys
it makes it
the
less
model.
efficient. Right.
And
Yeah.
again, it was like that was one of the things that made Disney as a company so interesting, because they could be incredibly profitable, but Disney took Roy Disney took a lot of financial risks, right? Putting out
Right.
weird movies that they had no idea if they were going to sell well.
Right.
And building these parks that when they introduced when you could just buy one ticket instead of doing the ticket book thing, right? When they introduced that in the early 80s, my parents talked about this because they're both from Southern California, like AJ's parents.
Yeah.
It's $14.
I know. I remember you
Yeah.
talking about that. I think on another episode. Like,
Well,
It was not much at
Even when I
all.
was a kid, I think it was like $56 for the whole year.
Yeah. If
Wow.
If you're a Southern
Wow.
California
They
resident. yeah.
had these annual passes that have blackout dates and things like that. So you're not going to be able to go on big holidays or weekends or stuff.
Yeah, but-
and even my sister went to school in California, and it was like $150.
but also,
Yeah. You know?
why would you do that when you could simply not do that?
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking Goodwill? Who gives a
Who
shit?
cares?
You can make more
Disney's
money.
not about that anymore, baby.
It never really was. It's
no,
just
but there's no illusion of it anymore. They
right.
don't have the Disney magic, right? They have just the constant, relentless thrust of consumption and owning everything. And pretty soon this podcast will be owned by Disney.
That's actually this would be a good time to mention that Disney has acquired the Worst of All Possible World
Yep.
in an all-stock deal.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. This is so weird. It says the showrunner is Jeremy O'Harris?
Yep. And we're canceled. Okay.
Okay, great. Okay.
AJ, what are your thoughts on Disney Magic?
Well, I mean, I spent most of my childhood like at Disney because the tickets were so cheap and it was a 45-minute drive from my childhood home. We just went there on the weekends just for like fun. So there's like a whole bunch of pictures of me around my house with all the mascots at the park. I loved that place.
Yeah.
Thunder Mountain was my ride. It was the best experience on the planet. And now you have to like get a second mortgage to afford a single fucking weekend at that park. And it blows. I mean, I miss the ability to do that. I mean, I live in New York, so it's like there's no way I'm gonna like fly back.
You
to
miss
Disney.
going to Disney every weekend.
I do miss the feeling.
It kind of rocks,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. Like if I lived in Sandusky, I'd probably do that with
Of
Cedar
course.
Point, you know.
But also, here's the thing about Cedar Point. You can still afford Cedar Point.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, the tickets are like, although this is the difference between the model now, is like for Cedar Point, tickets for admission are still dirt fucking cheap. Where they're really making the money is on the fast passes or the fucking, what do they call it? Fast lane.
Yeah. Because they're also doing the stupid shit where they monetize the thing that was just supposed to make the experience better for everyone.
And so like you can get into Cedar Point for like $40-$50 no problem, or sometimes less if you have like a coupon or whatever. But you're going to be spending like $150 on the fast lane, and even more if you want to get fast lane for the brand new rides.
Yeah.
With that said, the renovations that Cedar Point is making for the upcoming summer do look very fun. I do hope to find myself in Sandusky again at some point in the short to medium term future to ride those rides, to enjoy the new experience where the Wicked Twister used to be. They've put up this new like cafe, and there's another fucking ride they put over there.
Yeah.
Looks really fun.
Speaking of Wicked Twisters, there's some Wicked Twister going around trying to destroy our public education
This episode
system.
is an all-timer for transitions. Oh my God.
Truly. I haven't done one yet, and now I'm really
There
scared.
is an old Dutch hag
she's
stalking around the country.
Good Lord. So,
And she's got one question on her lips. Whose children are they?
So our longer time listeners might remember the episode that we did a while back about, actually it's about ethics in middle school journalism, where on the back half of that episode, I interviewed Harm van Huysen, who at that time was the outgoing editor-in-chief of Chimes, the student newspaper of Calvin University, as it's called now.
John Calvin University. We still just call it Calvin College because that's what it is.
This is the Brian and I. It is our alma mater.
Yeah.
And Calvin, just for a refresher for those of you who are not familiar with the school, is a school that is named after John Calvin, the Protestant reformer of the same name, who infamously burned heretics at the stake in Geneva, Switzerland. And it's similarly chill. It's a similarly chill environment.
I mean, the thing is, like, when we were there, that's what it was kind of known for. It was chill. I mean, we honestly had a very apathetic student body, but you have to look at it in comparison to other Christian schools, right?
Yes,
if you go to Pensacola, they will fucking beat you with chains.
Of course.
If you like touch a woman.
Yeah, it's and I mean compared to even
Calvin, you could be a faggot.
Yeah.
And they didn't do things to us. It was great.
Right.
I said horribly lewd things that probably crossed some serious ethical lines at times, and I didn't care. No one could do anything to me. I was invincible.
You're using the past tense here, Brian.
Yeah.
I think that's fascinating.
Well, people pay for this. They weren't paying there. Well, I mean, they paid in their suffering.
They will pay.
But like, this was a school where like, every few years you'd have the fucking like board of trustees issue a memo like, hey, you need to
issue a fatwa.
Yeah. It's like that's what they were. It was like, you need to like, all of our faculty, they need to condemn homosexuality. And the faculty felt safe enough to just be like, no.
Yep. Now, AJ, you, of course, went to a godless university, so you don't know what these things are like.
I went to a very God-filled high school, though. Does that count for nothing?
It counts for something, but it's not quite the same.
Catholic, no.
Yeah, that's true. You're not. That's
We
not
had a Franciscan friar. Come on, we had a real life padre.
Oh wait, no, people are fine with friends. It's the Jesuits. That's the ones that like the Catholic converts are like, oh, the Jesuits.
Yeah, because they're all intellectual. And
they ruined
secular.
Catholicism.
Yeah, they ruined it.
So
but our probably our most famous alumni at dearest alma mater is of course one Betsy DeVos. The former Secretary of Education of the United States of America,
daughter of the Prince family, the auto parts manufacturers, patent holders, biological sister of Eric Prince, the fucking mercenary.
Yep.
And the wife of Dick DeVos. They're all named Richard. So it's Rich, his son Dick, his son Rick.
Yeah. He's Pickle Rick. And the fucking thing about Rick. So
I can't wait for his grandson, R.
Rick is the one who we talked about who's like, he's become a real logic guy freak.
Yeah.
Dick DeVos ran for governor of the state of Michigan in the year 2000, I want to say, and got fucking shellacked.
Yeah, people did not want Dick.
But Betsy DeVos's project, we've talked about it a little bit here because, you know, it's
listen to our episode, Whose Children Are They? Which she is not directly a part of, but is
she's
tied up in all
not
of
part
it.
of it because she, Betsy DeVos, is sort of like the money behind a lot of different organizations that are to do with the concept of quote unquote school choice.
Yeah.
School choice in this context, meaning if you don't want your kid to go to the local public school, what you can do is you can pull them out and you can either homeschool them or send them to a private school. And also, not only are you allowed to do that, you can get bonus money for doing that.
Speaking of bonuses, if you are a subscriber to this episode, we're actually talking about some of that in the subscriber episode that we were putting out today alongside this one.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because there are so many loopholes that go into this educational system that is like school vouchers has always been like the big thing, but there are other programs which we talk about in that episode. And this is all just designed to destroy public schools so that we can destroy opportunities for the poor, right? And so that we can move the undesirables where we want them to, which at this point is just prison. We just want to put everyone in prison if they're black in this country.
And of course, the irony here is that Brian and I actually both went to Christian schools that were funded by the fucking DeVos family. So like,
I went to a K through 12 Christian school that was founded in 1903 by Dutch missionaries on the Navajo Nation, where they would just beat kids until they stopped speaking Navajo, right? Even though those people would all go home and speak Dutch in their households. They were forcing the English language, American culture, and Christianity onto these children. And over the years, it has developed into a Christian school. And you see all this controversy about up in Canada. Of course, they're uncovering all these unmarked graves. My school has marked graves. Like, this is not a surprise. Anyway, there's a lot of truthers in Canada who are like, no one's actually buried there, all that stuff. No, of course they were, because they didn't. If they died there, and plenty did, of things like Spanish flu, they didn't get to go home. Their families had no custody of their children. They were buried right there on the plot.
Jesus.
And this is the legacy of all of this stuff, and this is how it continues forward. And
now it's back, much like Broadway.
Now we see like this system. They're not bringing back the boarding schools, but they're just trying to destroy public schools.
Because again, like public schools are one of the primary drivers of class mobility in this country.
So is the post office.
It's one of those things.
That's doing fine.
It's doing great. And is also under no threat of privatization whatsoever, much like our schools. So Betsy DeVos recently came back to Calvin College, and she was invited back.
Which would not have happened while we were there.
Correct.
Too hot of an environment for her.
Even though at the time the president of the college was this fucking, natural gas magnate freak.
Yeah, who had George W. Bush speak at graduation while he was still president of the country.
So like George W. would have come back, but Betsy wouldn't have. And again, that's largely because of the climate. It's the fact that there are, or at least were at the time, a lot of faculty who did not like her and do not like her. But here's the thing. Most of those faculty are now gone because the school has been shrinking.
Yep.
And as a result of that, most of literally all of the professors who like knew who I was are gone now. Every single one of those tenured faculty have been bought out basically from their contracts. They're gone. This mirrors what's happening in higher education more broadly.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that it's not unique to a place like Calvin.
Yes.
It is happening all over the place,
But
unless
the
you're at like
thing
Liberty University.
that is, and then that's a whole other situation. But the thing that is unique about Calvin, obviously, is the connection between the school and the sort of Republican Dutch Protestant power core. That's at the center of the whole fucking thing, right? Yeah. And so recently, Calvin got a new president. It's this guy named Wiebe Boer.
Yeah. Is it Wiebe, not Weeby?
Maybe it's Wiebe. I don't fucking care.
I just think Steve Wiebe, the Donkey Kong champion.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
So he is, I mean, he really is. He's an actual, like, full-blown Dutch. He worked for the Shell Corporation.
Yep.
Royal Dutch Shell as like their
Not a Shell Corporation.
no the Shell Corporation.
That's funny.
And he did it as their like guy who goes to the third world and doesn't do anything suspicious.
Well, because he grew up in Nigeria, right?
Yeah.
He was the
also not doing anything suspicious.
He was the child of, I want to say, missionaries. And so allegedly.
And so he does the, you know, all of these companies have these things where they kind of launder reputation, if nothing else, that are tax breaks and everything. We're like, oh, but we build a well in Nairobi or something like that. You know, it's like in a big city that has running water, and they use that. And so this guy is like a nonprofit sicko as well as being a fossil fuel sicko. So that's everything that Calvin has ever wanted in a president, and he's Dutch.
AJ, your thoughts about these people so far?
I mean, I think that if I want somebody to run my university, where better to look than big oil?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, I think they know a lot about education.
See, here's the thing is like, if you want to run a nonprofit educational facility,
Right.
What better place than for you to come from than profits, than private profits?
Yes.
Yeah.
Than from having to learn how to make money. Fossil fuels don't have to learn how to make money because they just make it anyway. They're actually very inefficient because the money just keeps rolling in no matter what happens.
The last president of the college who was connected to fossil fuels ended up almost leading the university to financial ruin?
What is this person off screen telling us that we're repeating over and over again? Who are these children coming down?
We have to get a new cue card, guys.
Well, and that was the famous thing is like the hilarious scandal that they decided to sweep under the rug with the previous president or the previous president was that Galen Biker, this natural gas fucking pervert who's going straight to hell.
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Absolutely not.
It's funny because that's actually what Eugene saw in hell. That made him convert to
It
Christianity.
was just Galen Biker's fucking mustache and his bitch lush wife.
Wario ass face, motherfucker.
Wow.
He's like if you dehydrated a walrus. So he.
The mayor of Odyssey.
Yeah, this guy did all of these schemes that a lot of schools did. Where he took on debt and then financed that debt in real estate because nothing was going to happen to real estate.
And nothing did happen. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
But, you know, that was the previous guy. This is the new guy. New guy confirmed. It's Weeb Boar.
He's a real weeb.
Yes.
Princess Mononoke is his jam.
That's right.
He's not exactly related to Josh, but like the Boormans. They got their name because they bought, sold, grew, cultivated boars.
Yes.
And so Weeba was actually like, he was on the shelves at Josh's old general store. Yeah,
sure.
Huge if true, which it is not. So, so basically, just to get back to like what the thrust is here, you know, Betsy DeVos was recently invited back to the college campus by none other than Mr. Bohr himself, the new president, to talk about her new book. She's got a new book. You see this?
In a more civilized time, if this woman had the record that she had
sane.
and came to speak at this college, there would be some protest. Yeah. There would be some real, not vociferous protest, not a lot of rambunctiousness.
It would be vociferous in some circles.
There would be response. There would be vocal
in much the
response.
same
Would
way
standing outside. Yeah, what?
Would row after row crow vociferous if you give him the old razzle dazzle?
Well, but that's the problem is she doesn't. She sort of tried to give him the old razzle dazzle, but she doesn't have it.
No, because she's austere and Dutch.
Yes, highly austere.
There's a very
in the press conference rag.
Anti-razzle, anti-dazzle culture.
And so basically then I went and watched this shit because I like inflicting pain on myself.
Sure.
And if you go on YouTube, there's a clip of this bullshit. And basically,
so much of it is like, so there are a lot of people who disagree with you. How do you put up with that? How do you survive
just these fucking
people not having the same thoughts as you?
Right.
Questions from the guy who is...
Well, I'm built different.
The professor who is the dean of the education school.
Yeah. Who, like, most of his students are going to be going on into public education.
And I have to... I mean, I don't know what his story is. I don't know this guy. But it's very clear that
Honestly, the school needs money.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what this is. This is a potential huge
This is a Hail
donor
Mary.
that they can like get big networks into. They can get Trump money. They won't because no one does.
Also, Trump doesn't have any money, so
No,
there's that.
They can,
Yeah.
they can get Ivanka money. Like they are desperate for this money. They kind of
Yes.
have gotten by for now. They avoided this big cliff that they were going to hit in 2017.
The boyfriend Cliff.
And and the girls are eating their spaghetti and meatballs. And the fucking pandemic happened.
Right.
Like they made enough to not completely go under, but they have retracted so much that it's like, well, you're just going to keep tumbling down the hill unless you get Mr. Weeby, who is a champion at Donkey Kong. He beat Billy Mitchell's
That's
record,
right, Ryan.
and he's going to climb back up the structure. And how do you do that? But you get the sickest, most fucked up
Yes.
people that went to the college, and not just the people who dropped out, like Rich DeVos. You get his daughter-in-law, and you get her the fuck on board.
Because the other thing that's worth noting about this is that the Prince family, Betsy's parents,
Yep.
have donated a fuckload of money to the school.
Incredible amounts of money from these people. Yeah, everything on that campus is named either DeVos or Prince.
Yeah.
Or
Sure.
two places named Spoolhoff for different Spoolhoffs.
Brian,
They're
when-
named after different guys.
Jesus. Brian, when you first got there, were you at least a little bit excited that maybe Hal Prince had bought a building at Calvin College? Was there just that little flicker of hope?
Just for a hot
maybe?
second.
Just their one really big Jewish donor, and then everybody
Yeah, right.
else, like, here's the Stephen Sondheim wing.
God. Whoa! Fucking Catholics were a novelty at Calvin. I can't
Oh,
even begin
good
to
Lord.
imagine people from outside the Christian faith.
what's
I would
so
be a
interesting
novelty? Go
because
on.
so much of this was just this like filthy, like, oh, what if
Whoa.
people say that you're a bad lady?
Yes.
And she's like, I think I'm a rather good lady.
But what's
I
so-
just want people to come
The
together
audience.
and be able to talk to each other.
Yes.
Wow, that's
And
pretty good.
it really is that. And what's so interesting about it too is that, when you are speaking with an audience like the people who fucking went to Calvin, continue to donate money to Calvin, the big thing that they are all about is civility.
Mhm.
And this
Right.
also connects to what we were talking about in the Adventures Naughties episode that we
Please
recorded.
don't yell at me.
Right.
Because we haven't said the name of her book.
No, but
What is the name of her very measured take on the educational system?
bro, I don't fucking remember.
It's called Hostages No More. And the blurb
my
on Amazon is like Betsy's back.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it.
yeah.
I'm gonna find it. But
That's my favorite Shakespeare quote, actually, is hostages no more. And my favorite immersive theater piece.
Yeah, that was from the first quarter of Cymbeline.
Do you think that's actually when people quit Sleep No More? they
Oh,
walk out
yeah,
and they
Sleep
have
No-
to scream that into
Yeah.
the abyss?
See, I was thinking Fear No More or Cry No More, is it? From
It's Fear-
Cymbeline?
it's Fear No More.
Fear No More, yeah.
Yeah.
That's also in the Frogs.
That's the frogs, yeah.
Shakespeare,
reason I know it.
Shakespeare was like, I'm going to stop doing some things.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested in the difference between how the rhetoric is presented within the circle that
Yeah.
demands civility and
Yeah.
demands that you are nice and don't yell.
Meet me in the middle, bro.
Right.
Like,
There's a whole song about
look.
Why don't you
and
just
I,
do that,
You and
AJ?
I,
What-
we're brothers and sisters in AWA. I see you. You see me. I see P.
What? What?
What?
Who is
Insane
P?
Clown Posse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're all
yes.
juggalos, man. Everybody's a juggalo.
When
That's
you
right.
talk about civility of discourse, I think the
Yeah.
first thing I think of is ICP.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Magnets, how do they work,
So-
Brian?
Don't bring me a scientist.
So on the one side, you've got Betsy DeVos going. And
Yeah.
by the way, should be noted, this stop at Calvin was part of a big tour for her book,
Yeah,
right? She's
yeah,
going all
sure.
over the place.
This
with
is
the
a
shit.
big deal that she came here, and it was like
Yes.
very purposely
Yes.
like
Yes.
this is her trying to be on the upswing.
And the fucking, President Bohr gives this fucking speech at the meeting where he's basically sucking her off. It's
It
like,
is filthy.
it's really
guys.
revolting.
It is pornography if you hate pornography. Like I do. I'm a good Christian boy.
you mean pornography?
pornography?
Oh boy. And this is the first stop on a big tour.
I think
for
this
her.
is the last stop,
Yeah, I think this is
actually.
the
actually
last
clo-
stop?
It's the opposite of when Sarah Palin made her first stop at the new Barnes and Noble in Grand Rapids.
Which I went to.
Oh, we need to talk about this actually.
Yeah.
So they were building a new Barnes and Noble that's just down the street from Calvin
Yep,
campus
in the mall.
and Sarah Palin started the Going Rogue tour at that Barnes & Noble. It wasn't even open yet. And they opened it up and they had a fucking like Santa Claus line go all the way down the whole mall and come back. People had to show up at 6 a.m. and get wristbands and go.
Which I didn't do.
And she famously left her governor's position halfway through her term.
Right.
And I joked to my friend when we went down there and we were just like looking at this huge crowd. I was like, I bet she's going to leave halfway through. And she did. She was supposed to be there for 3 hours. She was gone in 90 minutes.
Not before I showed up, though.
Yes.
Wow.
Josh showed up somewhat famously.
Yes. Wearing a t-shirt. So I got a plain white t-shirt and I wrote on it with a Sharpie, I wrote "Homos for Sarah." And...
Oh my God.
Got kicked the fuck out of the mall.
Yeah, first didn't you have like a zip up hoodie?
And I unzipped it, and I don't think I was able to actually see her because she was like behind a step and repeat, and there was all the fucking bullshit.
I think they even had her up the stairs.
That could be
something like because we couldn't see. That was the whole point. We wanted to see the whatever's going on.
I just imagine that her security detail is just like, we got a homo, get him out of here.
Pink alert, pink alert.
Here's the thing: I wasn't escorted out by security. I was escorted out by Grand Rapids' finest, like actual fucking police. I am dead ass. Yeah.
Oh boy. And Josh, was there anyone who noticed that you were wearing that shirt who maybe wrote about it online?
Yeah, some fucking blogger or something.
Back in the day, this was not just some fucking blogger. This was Joe My God. This was a big deal in the blogger days.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, okay, hold on. Is Joe My God an expression that you're saying? Like Joe My God, or is that his actual name?
It was the name of the blog,
yeah.
And it was like I think he's atheist and gay. So he's talking about like fundamentalist Christianity and anti-gay stuff at a time when, it was like 2008, 2009.
Sure.
So Josh got an article on that blog.
Whoa.
Someone, I think they misread it though. I think the blog says that there was someone thrown out wearing a Homos for Palin shirt.
He described me as somewhat diffident.
Not wrong.
Fuck you. So, to pull it back to, no, did you have something?
No. I'm really, really fascinated to see when David Lipsky eventually releases his tapes that he recorded while touring with Betsy DeVos, and Jason Segel.
Jason Segel plays Betsy DeVos.
No. I think he's just in the back seat along for the ride. Who would play Betsy DeVos?
Is this the end of the tour?
That's what he is doing. Is the end of the tour.
Unbelievable.
A movie that I worked on.
Who is this for?
And not as an extra. I actually worked on this one.
Folks, if you want to see a real good film, check out the end of the tour.
All right, I gotta get this shit over the line.
Betsy is at the end of her tour.
Betsy's
and
at the end of the tour. She's at Calvin, and again, getting these softball questions about like, well, what do you think about if people don't think that they should be able to have money to go to the public?
Detective, there's like no going. You tell me two things. I don't.
And so she's saying things like,
"What's happening?"
And so she's saying things like,
Betsy done to you?
I don't know. I just really think that we want the solutions that are best for all of the children. And then she's going on and she spouts off like a lot of factual falsehoods.
There's also another thing. I don't remember if it was this interview or if it was the other thing where like she gets asked about Donald Trump because she left.
Right.
She resigned after January 6th.
Yeah.
And so they were asking about like what the future looks like with Donald Trump. She's like, oh, I think, we just need to be open to any kind of possibilities of whoever could be president. We have our disagreements, of course, but like,
fear no more, Betsy.
She's straight up made the like,
this was supposed to be a principled resignation.
Yeah. And now she, just because all of them are like this, is cucking herself on back because she knows he's the only one.
And meanwhile, here's how her shit is getting pitched to the true believers. This is the dust cover copy, like from the little flap, Long before she was tapped by President Trump to serve as Secretary of Education, DeVos established herself as one of the country's most influential advocates for education reform, from school choice in charter schools to protecting free speech on campus.
Oh, wow.
She's unflinching in standing up to the powerful interests who control and benefit from the status quo in education, which is why the unions, the media, and and the radical left.
Radical
Her
left!
Public enemy number one. Now, DeVos is ready to tell her side of the story after years of being vilified by the radical left.
After years of
for
being
championing
silenced.
common sense, conservative reforms in America's schools.
I'm just really glad that she's unflinching
Yeah.
because when the water bottle flips, if she flinches, she has to marry her mother-in-law. Those are the rules.
Yeah.
Those are the rules.
You get 2 for flinching. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
fuck her. Fuck her.
Fuck her.
Yeah.
Is there anything more that we want to say about Betsy? About our good friend?
Not really.
Confidant?
Just like the big thing that you need to do
She's a small bean.
if you've grown up in the world or continue to be in the world, which I know that a lot of our listeners are. Like, I know that some of the people who listen to our show regularly have been listening to this specific segment very closely, and a lot of other people probably skipped right past it. But here's the
I'm
thing.
in the world, but not of it.
Here's the thing that I wanted to say. If you are in this world, if you are seeing this shit and you are, you can see the insanity of what the thing actually is, and everyone around you is continuing to gaslight you until you know, whether it's Betsy DeVos or anyone else, because
be
all of
decent,
these
gotta be
freaks are the
civil.
fucking same.
Yeah.
You got to be decent. You got to be civil. You just need to look at both sides. And like, they're really trying to do the best for everyone. They're fucking not. They're
not.
acting in bad faith.
Yeah.
They're bad people. Their objective is to line their own pockets. And if you see the truth, that means that you're able to see things that other people aren't able to see. Do not give that away.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
on that same subject of seeing the truth, we got to talk about it because we're the show that talks about this place, right? Colorado Springs.
Colorado 80995.
And bad things are happening in the 80995. This fucking place has, it's got a lot of Mormons. It's got a lot of evangelical Christians, and the lines between those get blurred sometimes. Focus on the Family is pretty happy playing both sides. And the mass shooter in Colorado Springs over the last month is someone who grew up Mormon.
Yes. And just wanted to say as well, we're going to talk about this pretty extensively. If you don't, this is a fucking hard thing to talk about and a hard thing to listen to.
Yeah.
So, feel free to tap out if this is not up your alley. We don't want to,
Because this is an awful fucking thing.
Yes.
And this is this growing threat against us, against our communities, against decent human people, just for the crime of existing, that we have these fucking people in Colorado Springs, the people who built the modern day Colorado Springs, these powerful Mormons, these powerful evangelicals, focus on the family itself.
Yes.
Creating this community that is built to be hostile to all of these people.
So I want to open this part by talking a little bit about Focus on the Family, which we all know and we all love. Right after the shooting happened, Focus on the Family, by the way, in case you haven't heard, there was a shooting at a gay nightclub in Colorado Springs. If for some reason you haven't followed this story, we're going to be talking a little bit about the guy who did it, why he did it, why he claims to have done it, which is fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
And a lot of other things. But because of the fact that this was a shooting on a gay club in a town that is not well known for its love of anybody outside of straight Christianity.
Yeah.
One of the first people who was asked about the position was, of course, Jim Daly, the president of Focus on the Family. And he said the following. This is straight from their website.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday night's horrific shooting in an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado Springs
he did the
exposes
acronym.
the evil and wickedness inside the human heart.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
there's
yeah.
just some human hearts.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim, who put that there?
Well, not God, certainly.
Mm-mm.
We must condemn in the strongest terms possible the taking of innocent life. Our hearts break for those families who have lost loved ones and who are suffering this unimaginable tragedy.
Great.
God,
That's a great way to end your statement.
I'm
It's
hearing,
over,
I'm hearing,
right?
yeah, no, I'm hearing
No.
a but. I heard the but 2 sentences ago.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't really a but here, but it does go on. We pray for them. And now the work turns to law enforcement, who are tasked with investigating and determining the motive behind the senseless violence.
We're trying to find the guys who did this.
We're all just trying to find the guys who did this.
What could possibly be going on here? Who
Hard to say.
knows?
Do they
Hard to
just
say.
give you a hot dog outfit when you work at Focus on the Family?
Yeah,
I mean, it would
absolutely.
just save time.
Yes. We pray for peace and for the welfare of our city. May he show mercy and give wisdom to those impacted and involved. So that's Jim Daly's statement. Now, the next thing that I would like to do is jump over to the website of the Family Policy Alliance.
Oh, why is that, Josh?
Well,
who are these people?
Well, who are these children coming down? These are, this is in fact the lobbying arm of Focus on the Family. This is the legally separate entity that is still headquartered out of the Focus on the Family building, zip code 80995 in Colorado Springs.
Oh, they're just neighbors. They're just good friends.
They're just, they were roommates.
They share a kitchen?
They were roommates.
Oh my God, they're roommates?
So I'm just going to read you now from the Family Policy Alliance. You know, if we pull up our menu and we pop through their nav here, we've got a number of issues we can look at. Let's take a look under the sexuality header. There's two options under sexuality. We've got sexual orientation and we've got transgender. Let's take a look at sexual orientation first and see what we can find.
We warned you, listeners. We're warning you again.
Yeah.
Sexual orientation. Sexuality is a God-given gift to be expressed within the context of a marriage between one man and one woman for life. Forms of sexual interaction outside of marriage distort God's gift of sexuality. God's truth about sexuality and marriage is deeply rooted in Christianity and many other religions. Okay. And cultures. As such, countless Americans oppose the contentious crusade of LGBTQ plus activists to elevate false forms of sexuality, particularly homosexuality,
False forms?
in law and culture. Increasingly, activists are attempting to use the law to force compliance of anyone who disagrees with their ideology.
Right, it's activists. That's how they get around it. That's how they have their cake and eat it too. They blame it on the fucking activists every fucking time.
It's like the how anti-Semites only talk about like the secular Jews, right?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
that's the out.
Yeah.
Men and women should not be punished by the government for believing God's design for sexuality is good. Family Policy Alliance advocates policies that protect the right of Americans to freely exercise their faith, including disagreeing with sexual relationships apart from God's design of marriage, and opposes policies that seek to force families to accept and even celebrate the LGBTQ plus agenda.
Yeah, it seems to be in direct conflict with all those feelings that Mr. Daly had.
You think?
Perhaps expressing that to the community. It's just sickening because it's like it really is. We're trying to find the guy who did this, and it's you. It's you. You instill this fear into people.
Right. I mean, people are learning more about the real things about Anderson Lee Aldrich, right? Which is that like this guy is at one of the lowest rungs of society, right? He was raised by primarily his mother. His father is a drug addict with severe brain damage because he used to be in mixed martial arts fighting.
And you can hear it when he talks. He's got the CTE voice and it's mixed with like meth mouth. It's really something.
And like, you know, people don't even get into MMA who are really coming from like a higher economic background, right? This is something that targets where you can see that in that documentary Tickled, right? For as many jokes as that documentary gets, it's like these are people who get targeted for specific things because they've got nowhere else to go.
Right.
And then this kid got in with the 4chan crowd when he was a teenager. That's what he was spending his time on the internet doing, and ended up inadvertently becoming a lol cow, changing his name, moving around here and there.
Wait, he was a lol cow? He got targeted?
Yes.
What is a lol cow?
A lol cow is someone who gets pursued and harassed and documented on the internet. So the famous one is Chris Chan.
Right.
That's where the Kiwi Farms forum began, and it's someone who is just constantly getting chased down,
pursued,
on the internet.
harangued, harassed, etc.
And so he did a full name change, moved around. But like what we're also finding out is that he had been talking about doing a mass shooting for a long time.
Yeah.
He felt like that was his way to make his mark on the world, and then he would go out. And he made a bomb threat against his mother and grandparents.
Yeah.
We have video of him in an active standoff against police. And then that all just got swept away for some fucking reason.
Yeah.
And then within a year, he goes and he slaughters people at a gay nightclub.
Yeah.
During the middle of a show, there are people there enjoying themselves. And it shows like the threat that this poses to these kinds of people is that like it's a drag show and people are so scared that there's someone seeing someone in drag who's not themselves just like some gay, right? Like they had the guy who ended up beating the shit out of this kid, almost killing him, right?
The Navy guy, you mean?
Was a straight man with his daughter and his wife and his daughter's boyfriend. The daughter's boyfriend was murdered.
Right.
And we're seeing all of this, like the hyper visibility of gay people, the hyper visibility of trans people, and of drag performers, of any kind of events, of any kind of community connection that any of us have. They want to destroy that. They want to ruin all of this for us. We have these people in North Carolina who are shooting out fucking power stations, cutting off power to tens of thousands of people to stop drag performances from happening.
Right.
This is an ongoing movement, and this kid is psyoped into this, right? You have people who are just being fed this culture of there is nothing, there is nihilism. You should self-destruct. You should destroy as many people with you as possible, and you should destroy the least desirable people on Earth. And here are the people that you need to target right here in Colorado Springs, of all fucking places.
But that doesn't absolve him of his responsibility. And
Absolutely
I know that's not what you're
not.
saying, but like that's what the argument is going to be. That's what his case is going to be in court. That's what the defense is going to offer.
Alone. He is nobody. He just did this by himself, but he did it because he is backed up by a constant and disorganized set of organized movements.
Yes. Whereas the thing that they're going to do instead is they're going to do, and I know I was saying this to you, Brian, it's going to be, basically the lyrics to Only a Lad by Oingo Boingo, right? Like, oh, he was just sad and confused, his life was so hard, and that's not, you don't get radicalized to this kind of action absent some sort of a crystallizing event or organizing force.
Because how many people at that bar were themselves growing up in broken situations, in poor families, in the fucking desperation that you get into.
That's why people find queer communities to begin with.
When you have the bravery to actually live your life as who you are and face all of the fucking slings and arrows that come for you because of that.
Right.
Including this increased threat that you are going to be fucking killed for no reason.
Right.
And they want, and so much of like the gay movement, it died, so many people died. And then after that, we went into full civility cuck mode for like 20 years, from Clinton through Bush into Obama. Everything was just about like just gay marriage. And anyone who was deviating from that point needed to shut the fuck up. And that included trans people, right? We said, no, you got to wait your turn, or maybe you're not going to have a turn. Like maybe it's just a little too crazy to support you in any way, right? We just have to get this marriage thing. We'll get that done, and then everything's going to be just fine. And of course, that's not how it works. You need organization, and you need the ability to defend yourself, and defend yourself using violence if necessary.
Of course.
Right.
And it will be necessary.
Yeah, I mean, and
it was necessary here.
Yes, it was. And he was stopped by some incredibly brave people who just leapt out and snapped that gun out of his fucking hand.
And bashed his fucking head in with it.
And we're going to have to fucking think about that for the rest of their life. We have this guy, this man who saved so many lives, who was in the military. He couldn't even make it through his whole term, his entire term of service, because he had to get an honorable discharge because he couldn't fucking take it anymore, right? He couldn't.
And now he has this to live with,
being
too.
in this senseless, violent environment, and then he finds himself in an even more senseless, violent environment.
Right.
AJ, what were you going to say?
No, it's so hard to look upon this stuff, because these horrific act of violence, what they're trying to do is to impress upon you their own nihilism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you do feel fucking helpless looking at this. Like, looking at all this senseless death, like it makes you think that there's nothing, like it makes you not want to go to a club. It makes you not want to live as your true full self. And to a certain like extent, like it's the bully fucking winning, right? But the way you fight against that is by having the bravery to be your full self, but also just trying to fight for a society that that doesn't fucking allow this anymore.
Yes.
That can actually see. Because here's the thing. I think one of the bigger points of disconnect is that the people in government right now who could actually be helping, they're too old to understand how this is happening.
Yeah.
So to them, it has to be a lone wolf because they can't understand like the cells that are being like brought up from the bottom, or they're fucking Elon Musk and are calling for like extermination tactics as the head of fucking Twitter.
Because that makes them money.
Because that makes them fucking money.
And I also think, yes, it is in some cases people who are just so fucking out of touch at this point. Like, and it's sad too, because you've got like fucking Dianne Feinstein who literally held Harvey Milk as he fucking died.
Right.
And now she just is so like her brain is gone. It's gone.
Yeah.
And that's the case with so many of these people. And the ones who aren't so old as to be out of touch are so fucking paid off by the people who continue to basically deal in arms and deal in hatred.
Right.
Because the nihilism keeps the machine going. It keeps the gears grinding that just grind all of us into a pulp. And, you know, it's startling too, because when you go back and you look at the people who caused this, the people in hot dog costumes, the focus of the families of the world, all they have to offer is thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
And they're continuing to run interference for their own asses. I mean,
the Daily Citizen, their little fucking rag, their fake newspaper, put out one article that has referenced this shooting in any way. And it was just like, hero veteran saves crowd.
No, check out this shit from, Daily also got quoted in the AP.
Oh, Christ.
And so I'm just going to read this as well. And, you know, good luck not fucking shitting yourself in anger. Daily, I'll just read this whole thing. Much like in the 1990s, Focus on the Family and New Life Church remain prominent in town. New Life Church is a big evangelical church.
Yeah.
After the shooting, Focus on the Family's president, Jim Daly, said that like the rest of the community, he was mourning the tragedy. With the city under the national spotlight, he said the organization wanted to make it clear it stands against hate. Daly noted, and this is what really grinds my gears.
Here we go.
Daly noted a generational shift among Christian leaders, away from the rhetorical style of his predecessor, Dr. James Dobson. Whereas Focus on the Family published literature in decades past, assailing what it called the homosexual agenda, its messaging now emphasizes tolerance,
Daly
ensuring
wrote
those who believe marriage should be between one man and one woman have the right to act accordingly. Quote, I think in a pluralistic culture now, the idea is, how do we all live without treading on each other, Daly said.
Without treading on each other.
At the Family Policy Alliance website right now, and it literally says at the very end, force families to accept and even celebrate the LGBTQ plus agenda. Congratulations, you changed homosexual to LGBTQ plus. I'm so fucking proud of you.
Yeah.
Jesus.
They got their little rhetoric. We got our thing. We got our initials. We got
you
our
did the
initials
letters.
in there.
Congratulations. Fuck you.
They don't fucking care. They want us gone, and they are seeing opportunities to get rid of us. And they are going to take those opportunities wherever they can. And they are going to have a lot of power to do this. And this is not going to be the last one of these. Which means that you have to understand that your community is going to have to work together. That we are going to have to protect each other just the way that our forebears did.
Yeah.
Just the way that drag queens and trans women and gay men stood there and started fucking throwing rocks.
Yes.
Just the same way that people with white t-shirts and rolled up cuffs on their jeans said act up and held signs and disrupted TV shows and fucking threw pies at people. Did everything that they fucking could to get anything done at all. And the respectability thing, we got to throw that out the window because it's already gone. Patriot Front does not care about respectability. The Threepers don't care about respectability.
No.
The Proud Boys don't care about respectability. Fucking Nick Fuentes has the ear of the most famous man in the world.
They're trying to get you to be respectable because you're easier to beat if you're respectable.
Yes.
Then they win. The fight is
And
over.
you have to understand that, yes, it is us against them. They have turned against us, and we need to understand that we have no ability to afford to allow them any kind of benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
They are our enemy, and they need to be acknowledged and treated as such.
But the fact also, I will add this, the fact that they traditionally have enjoyed this power, this access to the ears of some of the most powerful people in the world, the fact that we see time and time again the narratives that they're able to propagate through the media, whether that's through the stuff that's direct channels to the base, shit like fucking Adventures in Odyssey, or stuff that's laundered through the media, and it's people being like, oh, well, libs of TikTok isn't so bad. It's about, just because they're able to pull that shit off doesn't mean that they're going to win. Because you know what? They're fucking not. They're not going to win. They won't, because we won't allow that to happen.
No. I was down in Orlando shooting a commercial a couple weeks ago, and I got to talking with one of the PAs who is, there to drive me around to and from set. And as we were driving back to the hotel, he was like, "Yeah, I'm probably going to go out to the clubs after this." And I said, "Where are you going to go?" And he's like, "Well, I mean, Pulse is right over there."
Mm-hmm. And when you're outside of Orlando, you can only think of one thing when you think of Pulse.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, and he said, "I'm joking. It hasn't reopened yet. They're doing a whole renovation. It's going to be a whole thing." And I said, wow, I guess I'd never clocked that it was like in like downtown Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was like sort of in the environs, but it was like right there. And he said that a friend of, like his cousin had been there the night of the shooting, and he lost a friend there to that shooting, but his cousin had also been shot, but survived. And I said, I mean, that's horrific. And he said, yeah. And then they took the bullet out, but they made a tattoo around it. He made it into this beautiful like tapestry of art. And I said, what did the tattoo say? And it said, fight.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, they want us to live in terror, and there is a threat to us. And the response to it is not to be terrorized, is not to be so gripped in fear that you yourself become alone and isolated and nihilistic.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't bring victory, and it doesn't bring anything to yourself, and it doesn't bring anything to the people around you. And so I want you to remember that.
Yeah, there are just some things in this world that you know what it is, the hyperbole and a half. Allie Brosh has a story about when she was at like the bottom of her depression. She was lying on the floor of her kitchen, and she looked under the refrigerator, and there was a pea, just like a single green pea underneath the fridge. And for whatever reason, she just started laughing for like the first time in like 6 months, like uncontrollable, crying, holding your sides kind of laughter. And it didn't cure her depression, obviously, but it brought her out of like a very dark slump. And this morning, I opened twitter.com and I found a trailer for a movie, for a Netflix film called Doggone, starring Rob Lowe. Yeah. That is the story of a dog who gets lost on the Appalachian Trail for 11 days, but the tweet says, don't worry, that dog is alive. So this dog makes it to the end of the movie.
I have a question for you about this movie, AJ.
Sure.
What's the dog's name?
The dog's name is Gonker. And when I tell you that just hearing the name Gonker, you're like, well, surely they don't refer to him as like as Gonker the whole time, like maybe Gonk or like Kerr at like some point. No, full name Gonker 6 times in the trailer. Yeah, 6 Gonkers in a fucking row to the point where
6 Gonkers, 6 Furious,
where the word Gonker stops having all meaning.
Right,
it just
it stops having all meaning. The meaning gets lost. The meaning that was there in the first time you heard it?
Yeah. No.
The meaning of the word gonker, which was extremely intuitive and clear to you up until this point.
No, first of all, why is the movie not called Gonker? Lead with Gonker.
Because it's a gone cur. It's a cur that's gone.
Gone, baby, Gonker.
That's huge if true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't...
Gonkerl.
It's coming out January 13th. I'm fully gonker pilled at this point.
You are the problem.
I'm bonkers for gonkers. No. and I guess my hope is that first of all, watch the trailer because it's wildly entertaining and will be more entertaining, I think, than the actual film.
This is where we are at the point of like, this thing was made before everything was downsizing. and it was just like, we're just shitting everything out.
Yeah.
But now we have to like give it some attention. This thing should not have gotten your attention, and yet it got everyone's attention.
Yeah.
We all saw Gonker. We all saw that the cur was gone. We saw that this movie, which is called Dog Gone.
Wait, so I have a question, AJ.
Yeah, hit me.
I have a question here. So,
Sure.
you know, when we were outlining this, and by outlining it, the process for this is, what are the things we should talk about?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, fuck. We didn't work on this earlier.
You were like, I need to dedicate 5 minutes to Gonker.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, so, first of all,
Yes.
with regard to Gonker,
Yes.
is this like a thing? Like, are there a lot of people who are obsessed with this as you are? Or is it
yes.
just like you?
Yeah, no.
Oh, no, it's a thing.
It caught fire.
It did catch fire.
What does-
it halt and caught fire? It halt? It halted.
Halted.
It halted and caught fire.
What is the, like, quantitatively, like, how many people at this point are Gonker pilled?
Oh, I would say a good portion of the internet. I think anyone who's seen the trailer. I mean, when you watch the trailer, how could you not be Gonker pilled?
I don't know. I don't like Rob Lowe very much.
But he just, I mean, here's the other thing. You know that there's no meat on the bone of this movie because he says the same line twice in the trailer. Like, it's just like,
This is starting to sound like one of your Hallmark movies, Josh. Like, this might be a movie
not
that you
wrong.
can watch.
You're
yeah,
not
I
wrong.
feel like that's it. Yeah.
I'm not watching this.
No, I'm gonna, you know what, Josh, you and me, we'll watch Gonker
All right.
on January 13th when it comes out.
There it is.
But it is.
It's the next Jean Dielman, is what it is.
It is. It's 3.5 hours of gonk. And I just hope, I think, the reason I wanted to dedicate some time to
Yes.
this is because I knew we'd be getting into some really heavy stuff.
Mhm.
And what my hope is that when you look at this, like, big wide world and like there's just so much nihilism that's starting to like creep into the corners of your mind. I hope that you can open a website, preferably not Twitter.
Probably not Twitter.
Yeah,
Most
a
likely not
different one.
Twitter.com.
Yeah.
But find something that fills you with as much joy and just like dopamine as Gonker did to me.
Yeah, Gonker just made me more nihilistic.
It didn't do anything for me one way or the other.
Not yet.
But sure, find your Gonker, I guess.
Find your Gonker.
Before we wrap
yeah.
up here, might as well say thanks for listening. If you've made it
Yeah.
this far, again, this is not our usual format. Usually, it's
we keep this. Yeah, this is not a typical episode. This is not
Yeah.
a typical Ladscast. We did
Yeah.
Ladscast a little bit longer.
Yep.
If you like this sort of thing, if you want to hear us talk about the thing of the month, check us out at the $10 tier on patreon.com/worst of all.
Yeah.
Of course, our usual thing, which we'll be back to doing in January. Back to doing next week even, and then in January, is we do case studies on things. We talk about evangelical entertainment like Adventures in Odyssey out of Colorado Springs. And we talk.
and we also talk about normal
We talk
entertainment.
about lots of other things. We talk about video games. We talk about
Movies.
We talk about TV shows. We've talked about a couple of books.
Yes.
Neither of those were normal.
Much to Brian's chagrin.
I can't read. So
The outline for this read like a Charlie Day note.
Yeah. I think I'm comfortable saying next week we're going to talk about the game series Hitman.
Yeah, I'm excited
specifically
for
the
that
Hitman
one.
trilogy.
And we have
which-
a preeminent scholar of Hitman
Yeah.
joining us for that.
We sure
So
do.
it's gonna be a great time. It's something I love quite a lot.
Yeah.
and,
I think we all
and
do,
we
yeah.
all have felt great about that episode coming
Finally,
out.
something we were talking again about something that we love. It's been a
Yeah,
little while since
yeah.
we did one of those. So
Yeah, it was a really wonderful record.
Sometimes when we talk about things that we love, we just don't have as much to talk about because
But this
like
time
it
we
was just
did.
really good. And this time it was like, no, it's full of stuff.
So
because-
again, if you want to
Yeah.
get access to all this shit, Ladscast is available if you get on our Patreon at the $10 tier. Everything else, all the other premium episodes are available
including
at
Fancy
$5
Movie
tier.
Time, where we introduce the canon of movies to AJ Diddy.
Yes, who has watched famously only 3 movies now.
So we hope you've enjoyed our sales pitch. Check us out, patreon.com/worst of all.
All right.
Find your
Oh my God.
Gonker.
Jesus, dude.
Gonker. Gonker. Gonker.
Anyway, I'm the worst of all
2000.
possible Brians.
I'm the worst of all possible Joshes.
And I'm still AJ, baby.
Oh, God. See you next week.
Dick.